Thank you very much. Uh, I'm a member of Congress, Raul Grijalva, and I just want to say how much I appreciate this opportunity to introduce the person that I support for President of the United States. Senator Elizabeth Warren. And the question of why comes up. I don't want to take too much time. All of you are here because you support and you understand the urgency of electing someone like Senator Warren to take us out of the darkness that we find ourselves in right now. But she possesses qualities that I admire, that I respect, the qualities of intellect, the qualities of capacity, and the critical quality of heart. Qualities, I might add, that the current occupant of the White House lacks entirely. Trump and the GOP enablers that are compliant, that run Congress and every part of the country, are in a very dangerous point for us. The very idea of our democracy is under threat, and their path to survival politically is a path that's being built and has been built on ignoring the rule of law. It has been built on a further concentration of wealth and power in the hands of very few people at the expense of the rest of us. That path is also being paved with racism, bigotry, division, marginalizing people in this country. And that is the danger that it poses. And for us and me as a Democrat, we need not only to defeat and win, but take this country in a direction that is different, stronger, bolder. And we're not going to get there. We're not going to get there by merely rearranging the furniture. We're not going to get there by simply working around the edges. We're going to get there through boldness, through vision. Because, Senator Warren is responding to what the American people want. She is responding to an economic system. She is an economic system that's fair, equitable, and provides opportunity. That's what we need. We need to deal with climate change and do it now. We need to unify a nation and not continue to marginalize. Go back. Go back where? This is my country. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying because I invested in this country and I love this nation of ours. So we have a wonderful opportunity to elect a leader that'll bring to this nation a sense of moral center and the ideas and the policies to move us so that the next generations that follow inherit a country with opportunity and a country that is fairer than it is now. So it is it. Like I said, I support Senator Warren because she's smart, because she's got guts, and she's got a vision that isn't so narrow that it's crafted just to survive. It is crafted to lead. And We all have a shared stake in this. We have a shared responsibility in this. And we have a shared time coming up in which he can cleanse this country of what is going on now and introduce a country and a leader that'll take us where we need to be. And so for me, it's indeed a pleasure. A pleasure for me, and I'm very honored by the opportunity to introduce to you the next President of the United States of America, Elizabeth Warren.
To be here with the Congressman. Raul Grijalva has been fighting from the heart. He is one of the most steadfast people in Congress who speaks out for what is right. And to be here to share a stage with him and to share this fight to take back our country in 2020 is Thank you. Wow, I am so glad to be here with all of you. This is great. You know, this is family for me. So I'm here. I brought my sweetie with me. Where are you, honey? My husband. There he is. And also his aunt who lives in Phoenix and his cousins. So we're doing family. Stand up. We got cousins. We got everybody. Because this is about family. So I thought what I'd do this evening is I tell you a little bit about myself. I tell you a little bit about why I'm in this fight. And then we'll just do some questions and get this done. And then, like I said earlier, if anyone wants to stay for a selfie, I'll stay as long as you want. Yes, Arizona blue. Let's do it. Oh, I feel it. I feel it. Yep. So listen, I grew up out in Oklahoma. Any Okies? 2. Okay. There we go. There we go. I grew up out in Oklahoma. I have 3 much older brothers. They are, to this day, referred to as the boys. 3 much older brothers. I was what used to be called a late-in-life baby. My mother always just called me the surprise. All 3 of my brothers, when they grew up, they all went off and joined the military. My oldest brother, Don Reed, career military, spent about 5.5 years off and on in combat in Vietnam. We were very lucky to get him back home. Yep. My second brother, John, he spent over a year stationed overseas. My third brother, David, trained as a combat medic. And as a result of that, we have a rule in our family, and that is never choke around David. The reason for that is even today, he carries a sharpened pocket knife and he is sure he could perform an emergency tracheotomy. Yes, it makes for some very exciting Thanksgivings. Anybody starts to go, and it's like, not me, Uncle David. We're all good here. I'm close to my brothers. I love my brothers. In fact, just talked to 2 out of the 3 today. When we were growing up, our daddy had a lot of different jobs. He sold paint, he sold fencing, he sold hardware, he sold carpeting. And when I was in middle school, the boys were all gone by then. And so it was just my mama and my daddy and me. And my daddy had a massive heart attack. And for a long time, we thought we might lose him. He made it through, but he couldn't work for a long, long time. And I remember the day that we lost the family station wagon. I remember the nights when my mother would tuck me into bed, give me a kiss, and I'd hear her close the door and start to cry. I remember lying in bed and hearing my parents talk. And that's when I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. And so one day I walked into my folks' bedroom, and laid out on the bed was the dress. Now, some of you in here may know the dress. It's the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. And there's my mother pacing. She's in her slip and her stocking feet, and she's saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She's crying, and she looks over at me. I'm just a kid. I'm standing in the doorway. And she looks at me, and she looks at that dress. She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home, and she was terrified. And finally, she takes one more look at me. She dried her eyes, pulled on that dress, put on her high heels, and walked to the Sears and got a minimum wage job full-time answering phones. That minimum wage job saved our house, and more importantly, it saved our family. And for many years, I thought that is the lesson that my mama taught me. And that is, no matter how hard it looks, no matter how scared you are, when it comes down to it, you reach down deep, you find what you have to find, you pull it up, and you take care of the people you love. And it was years after that that I came to understand it wasn't just what my mama taught me. It's what millions of people across this country do every day. No matter how hard it looks, no matter how scared they are, they reach down deep, they find what they have to find, they pull it up, and they take care of the people they love, because that's what Americans do. But here's the part I came to understand years later. That same story is also a story about government. Because when I was a girl, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would pay a mortgage, it would cover the utilities, it would put food on the table. Today, a full-time minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. And understand this, that change, it's no accident. It didn't just happen because of gravity. That change is about who Washington works for. When I was a girl, setting the minimum wage was about figuring out what it took a family of 3 to survive, what it took to give them a toehold in America's middle class, what it took to give them something solid that they could build from. Well, today, The question asked in Washington about the minimum wage is, what will improve the profitability of giant multinational corporations? I don't want a government that works for giant multinational corporations. I want one that works for our families. So, like I said, the boys, they all went off and joined the military. That was their path. Not me. My path was different. I have known what I wanted to be since second grade. Oh, you laugh. You laugh. You laugh. You didn't decide till third grade, fourth grade. I know. No, since second grade, I have wanted to be a public school teacher. I've never wavered from that. Let's hear it for our public school teachers. Yes. Yep. Oh, and I committed early. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I did. I had a reputation for being tough but fair. It's what I always wanted. By the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years at a university. So like a lot of folks in this country, I have a story that kind of has a lot of twists and turns to it. So here's how my story goes. The good news is I got a scholarship to college, yay. And then at 19, I fell in love, got married, dropped out of school, and took a minimum wage job. A good life, a life I picked, but not the dream. And then I found it. 45 minutes away, what was then a commuter college, University of Houston, $50 a semester, and that was my chance. For a price that I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job, I got a chance to finish a 4-year diploma, and I became a special needs teacher. I've lived my dream job. Oh, and I love that work. I don't know, do I have any special needs teachers in here? Oh, I got them here. Good. So I hope you will back me up on this. It is not a job, it is a calling. And I love it and probably would still be doing it today, except my story has a couple of more twists in it. So by the end of the first year, man, I love this work. By the end of the first year, I was visibly pregnant. And back in the day, the principal did what principals did. He wished me luck and hired someone else for the job. Okay, so I'm at home, I got a baby, I can't get a job. What am I gonna do? I went to law school. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, but it did. By this time, we'd moved again. I found a public law school that cost $450 a semester. Yep. 3 years in law school, and I hit graduation visibly pregnant again. You will discover a pattern to these stories. But I finished up, I took the bar, passed the bar, and I practiced law for 45 minutes. Yep, you can check my billable hours. And went back to my first love, teaching. I traded little folks for big folks and taught in law school for a zillion years. 2 kids, also husband number 1. It's always a clue when you have to number your husbands. Things didn't quite work out for us, but then I found my forever husband, Bruce. Nicely done. Yeah, can you imagine the guy who married me? All right, so there we go. So, taught in law school. And here's the deal. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up without any money. But, well, I'll tell you what I taught. I taught every class that was about money. I taught contract law and commercial law. I taught corporate finance and secured transactions, debtor-creditor law, partnership law, bankruptcy law, all of it. But there was always one central question that I worked on, and that is, what's happening to working families in America? Why is America's middle class being hollowed out? Why is it that people who work every bit as hard as my mother worked a generation ago today find the path so much rockier and steeper, and for people of color, even rockier and even steeper? And the answer is like the answer on minimum wage. It's who government works for. So think of it this way. We have a government that works great, works fabulously, works wonderfully for giant drug companies, just not for people trying to get a prescription filled. It works great for people who want to invest in private prisons and private detention centers, just not for the people whose lives are torn apart by those investments. Yep. It works great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, mining companies that want to mine everywhere. It's just not working for the rest of us who see climate change bearing down upon us. So when you see a government that works great for those who are rich, works great for those who have money, works great for those that can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers, and isn't working so well for everyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we need to call it out for what it is. Corruption. And understand this, whatever issue brought you here today, whatever is the one that touches it for you, whether it's climate change, whether it's immigration, whether it's gun safety, whatever brought you here, if there is a decision to be made in Washington, it has been touched by money. It has been shaped by money. It has been influenced by money. In fact, let me tell you a quick story. So here's go back and look. Early 1990s, we're just beginning to figure out about climate change. We don't have it all, don't have all the science yet, don't have all the right words for how to describe it and how the pieces fit together, but we're starting to see it. And you go back and look, Congress, Democrats and Republicans are working together because nobody wants to be responsible for a crisis, right? Everybody wants to get this right. So they're starting to talk about, do we need to give the EPA more power? Do we need more regulations? What should we be doing? Where should we be making investments? And then along come the Koch brothers. I see you've heard of the Koch brothers. And the giant oil companies, and the big polluters, and they say, in effect, wow, if Congress gets serious about this climate business, that's going to cut into our profits. Man, that's going to cost us money. We're not going to make as much. So they have an investment decision to make. Now, they could decide, we're just going to get out of the fossil fuel business. We're going to invest in clean. No, they don't do that. They could decide, we're going to go deep on capture, carbon capture, out of the air, out of the water, how we clean. No, they don't do that. You know what they invest in? Politicians. They invest in Washington. They invest in lobbyists. In fact, here's the one that really turns the knife. They invest in bought and paid for experts to stand up and deny that climate change is real. So think about why they do that. They don't do it because they don't understand about climate change. They do it because it builds an umbrella under which the politicians can hide. They can continue to take Koch brother money, big polluter money, oil money, mining money, and say about climate, gee, I don't really know, I'm not a scientist. That is corruption. You want to understand why we face a climate crisis today? It's 25 years of corruption in Washington that kept our government from doing what needed to be done. The threat from corruption is real. So, the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? And my answer, we attack the corruption head on. We've got to knock back the influence of money in Washington. We got to get on our front foot and run right up the middle at it. Now, here's the good news. I have the biggest anti-corruption bill since Watergate. You bet. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption bill since Watergate. So here's the deal. Money makes itself felt in so many places. This really is. It's a big, big plan with a lot of moving parts. So let me just tell you some pieces from it. First one, end lobbying as we know it. Here's another one. Block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. Here's one you might not have thought of. How about we make the United States Supreme Court follow basic rules of ethics on conflicts of interest? And you really want to root out some corruption? Here's an idea. Make everybody who runs for federal office put their tax returns online. Okay, so that's part one, is we've got to attack the corruption head on. Part two, we need some structural change in this economy. And here's how I look at this. One of the problems we've got right now is we've got these giant corporations. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. And they wipe out smaller competitors. Shoot, they wipe out medium-sized competitors. They run over their own employees. They run over their customers. They run over the communities where they are. And look, for openers, we need to enforce our antitrust laws. Break them up. Yep. Big tech, big ag, right? Go right after them. Big finance. But I want to see more structural change. And here's the part I want you to see. And that is, we need somebody consistently who's always there to push back against these giant corporations. That means we need more power in the hands of employees, make it easier to join a union, and give unions more power when they negotiate. Unions built America's middle class. Unions will rebuild America's middle class. Yep. We gotta do this. Okay, so that's one way to get structural change in an economy, strengthen our unions. Second way to do it, how about it? We pass a wealth tax. Yep. So here's what it'll look like. Here's what it looks like. It says, this is for the biggest fortunes in this country, those that are bigger than $50 million. That's the top 1/10 of 1%. So your first 50 million free and clear. I see some of you said, oh, good. Okay. But your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents. And 2 cents on every dollar after that, okay? By the way, anybody in here own a home? Or grew up in a home that somebody owned? Yeah. You've been paying wealth taxes forever. They're just called property taxes, right? Same thing. All I'm saying is for the really, 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 really rich, most of their wealth is not just tied up in real estate. So I'm saying for those guys, you also include the stock portfolio, the diamonds, the Rembrandt, and the yachts. Yep, that's the idea. And understand this, the point is not to be cranky with people just because they built big fortunes. It's not to try to punish anyone. Look, you had a great idea. You got out there, you worked hard for it, or you inherited well. But either way, if that great fortune was built here in America, I guarantee it was built at least in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. I guarantee it was built at least in part getting your goods to market on roads and bridges all of us help pay to build. I guarantee it was built in part protected by police and firefighters that all of us help pay salaries for. So all we're saying is if you make it big, we're glad to make these investments. We're happy to make them. This is what America's about. We want to make these investments. But if you make it really, really, really big, the top 1/10 of 1%, pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to make it in America. Oh, and here comes the fun part. What can you do for 2 cents? Well, here's what you can do. We can provide universal child care for every baby in this country age 0 to 5. Plus, universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in this country. Plus, raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America. Plus, I'm not through yet. Plus, we can provide universal technical school, apprenticeship programs, community college, and 4-year college for anybody who wants an education. Think about that. Plus, still not through here. Plus, we can help level the playing field, and we can put more than $50 billion into historically black colleges and universities and minority-serving universities. Plus, I want to mention one more about what we can do. We can cancel student loan debt for 95% of the folks who've got it. I just want you to think about what that means. When you do the math on that 2 cents on the top 0.1% is enough to fund all of those and still leave hundreds of billions of dollars more. Think about that. So that's a way to help restructure this economy. So part 1, attack the corruption head on. Part 2, just get some structural change in this economy. Part 3, we got to protect our democracy. So here's how I'd like to start. A constitutional amendment that protects the right of every American citizen to vote and to get that vote counted. And I've got a plan to protect every vote from foreign hackers. We need to protect our democracy. We need to roll back every racist voter suppression law in America. And just one more. Overturn Citizens United. Democracy is not for sale. Yes. Yeah. So that's it. I just want 3 things. Oh, but it's true. Just 3 things. Think of it this way. We got to fight the corruption so we can get stuff done. We got to get some structural change in our economy, and we got to protect our democracy. And I know, for a lot of people, those just sound like 3 things in 3 different directions. They're not. What they're really all about is they're about opportunity. They're about an America that's not just opportunity for those at the top, just opportunity for those born into privilege. It's about opportunity for all of our kids. It's about an opportunity to get a good education for all of them. Opportunity to get a good job, to start your own business, to buy a home, to start a family. Look, I'm a special needs teacher. I get it. Opportunity means a lot of different things, maybe including living independently. That's what opportunity can be about. But I tell you this, that's what pulls me into this race. That's what pulled me into politics. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but his baby daughter got opportunity. Opportunity to be a public school teacher, opportunity to be a college professor, opportunity to be a United States Senator, an opportunity to be a candidate for President of the United States of America. Dream big, fight hard, let's win. So I tell you what, thank you. Good job. So look, we're kind of crowded. It's kind of hot outside. So you've heard that. So I tell you what I'm going to do, instead of going through the stuff about we're drawing names, and I know you all got tickets, I'm going to do the 3 questions I get the most often, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, we'll just do those. And I'll tell you in advance what they are. One's going to be on immigration, one's going to be on climate change, and one's going to be on guns, because those are the questions I get the most. We're good on that? Okay. So let's start on immigration. Okay, let's start on immigration. And like all questions, we should start with a statement of our values. Immigration does not make America weaker. Immigration makes America stronger. So here's how I think of this. We need big change in this area. You know where it needs to start? We need to expand legal immigration in this country. This administration has cut down on the number of people who can be here legally. That's keeping families separated for months, for years. That does not make us stronger. That does not promote our economy, and it is not consistent with our values. We need to expand legal immigration. That's part one. Part two, we need to provide a path to citizenship for the people who are here to stay. Dreamers, yes, but also grandmas and grandpas. People who come here to do farming work, students who overstayed visas. These are our friends, our neighbors, our families. We need to bring them out of the shadows. We need a path to citizenship that is fair and achievable. That will be good for all of America. Yep. That's part two. Part three is we got to end this ugliness at the border. We need to live our values every day, and that means no more breaking families up. No more children taken away from their parents. No more abuse of people who come here seeking our help, seeking an opportunity for safety and to build a future. I've been to the border. I went down when it first came out. What's it been? About 14 months ago. When it first came out that our government, acting in our name, using our taxpayer dollars, was taking babies away from their mothers. And I went into one of these centers. I just want everybody, I know you all have seen this, I know there's been a lot of talk about this, but I just want to tell you what it looked like to me. The one I went to see in McAllen, Texas, looked like a giant Amazon warehouse, only it was dirty and it smelled bad. And when I walked in, on the left were cages packed full of men. Cages, they were cages, maybe 10 feet wide, maybe 40 feet deep, a toilet back in the corner. One after another, after another, after another. And on the right, cages full of women. And I thought, God, this is hard to look at, but I didn't know what was ahead. I stepped into the main part, and there were the big cages of little girls. Cages of little boys. Back in the corner, cages of the nursing mamas, the ones with the little babies. I talked to as many people as I could while I was there, and I still remember one mother who said to me that she had come from Central America. She said she had never planned to try to come to the United States, but she said she'd given a drink of water to a police officer, and the word had gone back to the gangs that she was working with the police. And when she heard that, she knew what it meant, that the life of her baby and her own life were now at risk. So she wrapped up her baby and ran. An America that cannot tell the difference, an immigration system that cannot tell the difference between a mama with a baby, a 12-year-old girl, and a criminal and a terrorist is not an immigration system that is keeping us stronger. It is making us weaker. So we start by saying no more, no more. On my first day in office, we will not break up babies, break up families, take babies away from their parents. But there is more. People ask me, what can we do today? And I'll tell you what we can do today. I say to everybody who works right now in our government, keep in mind that it is illegal right now in America to abuse immigrants, to sexually abuse children, to refuse to get medical care for those who need it. And while Donald Trump may be willing to look the other way, President Warren will not. And just one more point on immigration, and that is we've got to change what we're doing at the border, but we also need to recognize much of this is a crisis created by the current administration. We need to put more help into Central America and into other countries that are struggling. Help them with rule of law, and a lot of this problem resolves itself. So, we got to live our values on immigration. Let's see. Second thing I said I wanted to talk about, climate change. I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it because it so much fits into what's going wrong in this country, the corruption. How it is that politicians continue to take money from giant oil companies, from big mining companies. I understand you've got uranium mining issues here, right? Politicians keep taking money and keep doing nothing. This is the urgent crisis of our time. Climate change puts every living thing on this earth at risk, and it is our moral responsibility to fight back now. And I got a plan for that. So I'll do the short version, because it's hot out there, climate change, right? Okay, it's hot out there. So I'll do the short version. But here's the first part, and that is on the first day that I am sworn in, I will put in place a moratorium on any new drilling, any new mining on any federal lands and offshore. That's it. There is a lot that a president, oh, I love saying this, can do all by herself. And I promise you, I will do it. All right, that's part one. But part two is we need some more big structural change here. The urgency of the moment. We're running out of time on this one. The problem is enormous. And understand this, even if America gets to zero net emissions by 2030, we're only 20% of the problem. We got a whole rest of the world out there. So we have to think not just big, we got to think really big on this one. So here's how I look at this. The experts estimate that over the next decade, we're going to have about a $23 trillion market for clean around the world. Meaning sometimes clean energy, meaning ways to clean up the air, clean up the water, desalinization, lots of different parts to this. And much of what we need isn't even invented yet. So I say that's opportunity for America and opportunity for us to lead the world. And here's how it works. So I have a proposal that we put big investments into what we do best, and that is research and innovation. We're good at this. We do this. We put a lot of money in. And then we say to the entire world, you want to use all the new science we develop, all the cool things we invent, all the things that will help clean up this earth? You bet. We will do it, but we'll let anybody use it You gotta build it here in America. And then part 3 to this is we get out there and sell it, and if we have to, give it away all around the world so that we save the entire planet. That's our job. I want you to think about the possibilities here. This green manufacturing plant, estimate is it would be about 1.2 million new manufacturing jobs, good union jobs right here in America. And a chance for America to be a leader in a way that we can all be proud. So, third one I promised I would mention because I get this question, and I'll tell you, the hardest question, this is my 116th town hall. Woo! It's amazing that, I love Arizona. It's amazing how many town halls you can do if you're not spending your time behind closed doors with a bunch of millionaires and corporate CEOs. You feel me? So, I've been to 25 states now and Puerto Rico to do this, to talk with folks, because this is how we're gonna make this work. But the toughest question I got was from a little boy, I think he was about 8 or 9. And what he wanted to know is, in a world where kids get shot, what are we gonna do to keep him safe? And that's a hard question. Because here's how I look at this. Today, 7 children and teenagers will die from gun violence in America. Think about that. 7. And it's not just the mass shootings that get headlines. They die on our sidewalks. They die in public parks. They die in people's backyards. They die in communities of color, and everybody looks away. Nobody wants to pay attention. These are our children, and we have a moral responsibility. You know, if 7 children were dying every day from a mysterious virus, man, we'd be all over this, right? We'd be right on top of it. But not in the case of guns. And it's not like we don't know what to do. We need universal background checks. Hello? Take weapons of war off our streets. Treat this like the public health emergency that it is. So here's the question. We know what to do, and here's the thing. Huge margins, by huge margins, majorities of Americans want us to do this, including majority of gun owners. They said, come on, let's do some sensible things. So why don't we do it? Corruption. The NRA holds Washington by the throat. So what do you do in that case? And the answer is, just like we've talked about, you hit them straight on the money, and we build a movement all across this country. Moms demand action. We got any in here? Our students who march, right? And this is the heart of how we're going to make change across this country. How we're going to do it. We're going to do it from the inside. You bet. As president, as a candidate for president, I'll lead. I'll get out there and fight. But we're going to do it by building a grassroots movement, person to person, all across this country. That's how we will hold Congress accountable, and that's how we'll make real change in this country. This is it. We got to do this come 2020. So here's how I look at this. I know people sometimes tease me about having a lot of plans. But you know, my view is you want to get something done, you ought to have a plan for it. Okay? But they do. I've had the fancy politicians back in Washington. I've had people in the Senate tell me, you know, Elizabeth, I've watched, you're out there, you're talking to people. It's too hard. It's just too hard. You're asking for too many things. It's too much. Just smile more. Yep. And here's how I think about this. What do you think they said, the naysayers said to the abolitionists? You're never going to make change in this country, right? That's not going to happen. What do you think they said to the suffragettes? Too hard, quit now. What do you think they said to the early union organizers? Too hard, quit now. What did they say to the foot soldiers in the civil rights movement? Too hard, quit now. What were they saying just a few years ago to the LGBTQ activists? Too hard, quit now. But they didn't quit. They got organized. They built a grassroots movement. They persisted. And they changed the course of American history. This is our moment in American history. 2020 is not just about the next 4 years or the next 8 years. 2020 is about our direction for generations to come. And 2020 is our chance to build a nation of our best values. And how are we going to do it? We're going to get organized. We're going to build a grassroots movement. We're going to persist. And we're going to make this the America of our best values. Dream big, fight hard, and let's win.